The Village of Ashwaubenon Park and Rec Board for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Roll call, please.
Chris Zerbo,
Here.
Tracy Flukie,
Here.
Dean Hess,
Here.
Mark Castonia,
Here.
and Ron Mowerman.
Here. All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, please keep in mind our brave young men and women are keeping us safe and free here and abroad. Action on the agenda.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Action on the minutes from March 19, 2024 Park Board.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Comments from the public must be limited to the items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named. Board is not able to take action at this meeting. Nobody in the audience. Tracy's the only one on the web. So no comments from the public. We'll move on. Written communications. We have a few of them here. First one is from Jean Vavrunik Johnson. I just wanted to tell you what great parks Ashwaubenon has. I've recently been walking the trails through Sherwood Forest Park, Ashwaubenon Park, and Ashwaubenon Fox River Trail. They're so nice and well maintained. Next one is from Laura Walensky DeGrief. This is for Melody. Miles had his last private swim lesson with Nevaeh last night. I just wanted to reach out and express how much we valued the experience. Nevaeh was a dream to work with. She was very communicative and organized. She would check in every morning. We had a lesson and scheduled and discussed what skills she would be working on with Miles. Nevaeh was excellent with Miles. She was able to keep him focused, which is no small feat, and she knew when to push him. I can't believe how far he's come in just 7 lessons with her. We are very interested in continuing private lessons with Nevaeh this summer. We spoke briefly about it, and we will be in contact with each other once we both have a better handle of our summer schedules. Can't say enough good things about our experience. Thanks much. And then from Linda Samers, the VIPS program coordinator. Dear Rex, a big thank you to you and David for your presentation to the VIPS. I was pleased to hear about all the activities and projects your department is responsible for. Thank you to you and your team for all the work you do to make Ashwaubenon a family-friendly community. All right, all good stuff, and it's definitely appreciated when the public keeps us informed on what they think about how we're performing out there, good or bad. But it's nice to hear the good stuff. Let's see, what are we on? Action items. Consider, discuss, act on Element Way Mini Park preliminary concept plan. Rex.
All right. We have been, David and I have been working with Rettler and Associates on the concept plan for the park on Element Way, on the corner of Element Way. You've got a couple different pages on your agenda. I think everyone kind of knows where it is. It kind of is highlighted the boxes on where the actual park is. You've got a couple pictures of some potential playground equipment that we've been working on. That's our potential plan. And I did hand out a larger, little more comprehensive picture of that playground equipment this evening. But the main thing that's there is the actual aerial site view of the plan. which I want to talk about and kind of go over a few things. So the park itself is going to be deemed a mini park. A mini park is fairly small in size and kind of is meant for a particular community. In this case, obviously, there's a lot of denser than what Ashwaubenon is used to, housing development happening in that area. And with that, the need for green space occurred, and the village was awesome enough to agree that that it would be certainly appropriate to put a mini park in on that site so that the residents of those buildings, whether it be the Element, Bohemian Park, and quite honestly, I know the Marvell Apartments are in that area as well, and my guess is there will be more housing as we move forward going into that area. So I think that that park will be a little bit of green space from away from the density. So with that, we've got 0.43 acres being called a mini park. So it kind of takes out a number of things that we can't do. Obviously, athletic fields, it's not big enough to do athletic fields. So really, what is it for? Mini park really is for people to go to, just, you know, to get away in a little bit of peace or a little bit of green. There might be some activities there, which we do have. A place to sit, talk to some of the neighbors. A place, you know, maybe if you've got kids or grandkids from the apartment, is to bring those over as well, without having to cross a busy street or walk too far away. So that's what we worked with Rettler on. We probably went through 3 or 4 variations of different things within the park, and what you have in front of you is what we have to present to you this evening. So what I wanted to talk about, we can go through all the different numbers, but obviously getting the highlights, there's a green area for some open space play, as well as, you know, throwing a football around or frisbee or whatever, or just sunbathing, whatever they want to do. We've got a smaller size playground area. We've got some seating. We tried to make it some unique seating, something a little bit different out of the ordinary. And also talking with the management of some of the buildings over there and some of the employees actually as well. We talked to some of the Element employees that were there moving carts between the buildings just a couple of weeks ago when we went there. There's a lot of younger, I guess what would be maybe called young professionals in those buildings in their 20s and 30s. Some of them are starting to have kids that are in there. But most of the age group kind of tends younger in the 20 to late 30 age group. So with that, we decided we were going to also put in, you know, a couple permanent, you know, cornhole games, which is, you know, extremely popular with that. That way they don't have to haul their boards along. You know, they can just bring bean bags down, which you can buy over at Dick's Sporting Goods or something like that. We thought that would be kind of fun to try out and see how that goes over there, as well as some seating overlooking it. We talked about this a little bit before. Both of those the newer apartment complexes allow pets. So we wanted to try and make sure that the drinking fountain that you see on the side, number 8, also has a pet bowl on the bottom of it, which is kind of fun because I don't know if you noticed, but if you're walking by here in the evening after dinner, around the dinner time, there's a lot of people walking their pets. And that's because, you know, these buildings allow dogs in the building. So we thought that would be kind of important to do. And of course, we just got some other things there, landscaping, you know, some, you know, the trees, so on and so forth. Currently, what we're doing is we've gone out and kind of done a site survey already. The southern fence line, where you see number 4, on the southern fence line, just off of the playground area. That fence is filled with buckthorn, which has gone through the fence and really has destroyed the fence. So staff is in contact, or will soon be in contact, with Nifong Realty. Nifong owns the parcel immediately to the south. The property pipe is literally right on the fence line. So whether it's technically our fence, could be, because it's half on our property line, or whether it's on the other one, I don't think anyone's gonna mind if we tear that out and cut down all that buckthorn on that southern fence line of the park. So that's where we're working on with that. Also, historically, this site used to be at the end of, I believe, William Charles Court, which used to be a cul-de-sac back in the day. So you see the green space where the park is. The green space is actually the footprint roughly of what the building that used to be on there. I believe it used to be a fourplex apartment building. So that apartment building was taken out, tore down, the foundation was removed. And so what's left, and actually it kind of follows what our current concrete is. It's a driveway coming in from the north, and kind of where the playground and the concrete area you see on your map proposal is. That's where the parking lot was for that fourplex apartment building. So talking with our public works staff, it looks like probably within a couple of weeks, as soon as we get the go-ahead, as long as everything's approved with NIFON, we're gonna go in there, we're gonna pull that fence out, and we're going to rip up all the asphalt that's in there. All of our park maintenance crew have their CDL license, so we'll take some dump trucks. We'll figure out the best spots to dispose of the asphalt, if we can recycle that through northeast asphalt or someplace, and then there's probably gonna be a fairly large base layer of gravel. So we're gonna pull all of that stuff out and make that site ready for when we're actually ready to do work at the park. We're trying to do as much as we can on our own. Funding-wise, this is probably a good chunk of it will be coming out of park development funds. Potentially, some might be able to be shifted from the TIF district that's encompassing this. Not real sure yet on that, or have that locked in, but a good part of this is gonna be out of park development. So we're trying to save as much money as we can, and do as much work as we can on our own with our own crews. So the guys are actually excited to get in that payloader and move some stuff around, so that'll be fun for them. But in the meantime, let's get into some of the details. I guess what I wanted to do with this is bring it to the park board this evening and just solicit comments from everybody on what they think of the design, are we missing anything, so on and so forth. A couple things I want to say is we did a survey, or we asked both management companies of the newer buildings that are going up around the park. We had an online survey available for them to do. Now, Bohemian Park was able to get their survey out to their residents. I do not think Element was able to, but Bohemian did. We've got some feedback from them of what they wanted, which is what we tried to incorporate, some seating for shade, a little bit of playground equipment, so on and so forth. The drinking fountain, the dog, a place for the dogs, that type of thing. We also did our due diligence and wandered around Bohemian Park and the current apartment buildings, like what do they have? Because we didn't want to put in exactly the same thing. They've got some seating area at Bohemian and Element. They've got, Element has a couple of pergolas with some cooking stations, grilling stations adjacent to them for people to go out and barbecue and grill. So we did not put any of those, the grilling options in this park, because that's already, adjacent right next door to a lot of the population that's there. With that, and when they both have dog runs, both Bohemian and Element Way have a dog run, separate dog runs on each of their own property for them to let the dogs run loose a little bit, which is good. So with that, I would like to open it up and see what kind of comments the park board has on our initial design that we're presenting to you.
Rex, I think you did a pretty good job on the initial design and pretty comprehensive. I like the idea of having some seating in there. I think that's important for that park. I see it as kind of a community area, a socialization area for the development that's going on around that, considering the space that we have. And I like the idea of possibly coupling that with the art initiative.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, so if you notice on the upper right corner of the park, you've got number 10. And number 10 could be a bigger area, it could be a smaller area. We didn't include the art in there just for the cost factor at this point, nor did, you know, I mean, I can pick my own art and decide, hey, this would look good in there, but this would also be a good spot, you know, a good initial spot if we can get our still to be formed Ashwaubenon Arts Council off the ground. This would be kind of a cool spot to put something in. So we're kind of leaving that as a future to be determined for number 10. Probably some kind of statue or we're not sure what it is, what we could do. Made out of metal, it could be made out of, who knows? We're not sure. But that's what the art committee is going to be formed for.
It's next to the dog waste station. Maybe you can put a fire hydrant or so.
So there is a dog waste station there right now. I don't believe that is the village's dog waste station. So someone has put a dog waste station on our property. So I haven't actually seen the condition of it, but it's very similar to the type that we use, so it's working, we're gonna keep it there. And then once we develop the park, then, and someone is emptying it right now, it's not us. So, again, once it goes in, we'll take over the removal of any waste that is being accumulated in the depository container as part of the dog waste station.
Well, I'll interject at this point. I guess I had the opportunity to take a walk the other day, Rex, and look at it. A couple of different items that I noted. I question whether the art area should really be on the corner there. I'm not sure how that's going to affect the snow removal because you've got the corner intersection there and the snow has to go someplace.
Yep.
And then once it's there, are we going to be taking care of the sidewalk also?
It's adjacent to a park, so yes, we'd have to do the snow removal on the sidewalk.
Okay, so I guess that my feeling is that you may end up having to move the art to a little different location there because you've got the traffic coming out of element 4 and element 3 right on that intersection too. So you're gonna wanna keep the eyesight for people traveling that, or traversing that area available.
Sure.
It looks like they've done a nice job of moving the things around with respect to the different opportunities that the public will have. I would question the use of the smaller lights though, whether or not that's going to lend itself to vandalism, where if you've got them up in the air, there's less chance for the kids to knock them down and do things like that or run into them.
Sure. Well, we have, Ron, and that's actually a good talking point. We have similar lights on our marina, on both of the piers that go out. And if they're put on footings, they're actually fairly sturdy. We just felt that the bollard type lighting, which and we don't have, other than the marina area, we don't really have any bollard type lighting. So this would be the first park that we're trying it in. But walking around both Bohemian and Element Way buildings, that's all the lighting that they have. Their whole campus on both sides all their walkways are all bollard lighting. So the thought was that we would, rather than really illuminate it, because there's so many windows facing that park, and have it too bright, that we'd kind of keep with that, I don't know, that glow or that kind of low intensity lighting with the bollard style lighting. I think the main thing, especially with your comment, that we would want to make sure of is that it's as we'd want to get the type that's as vandal resistant as possible. So you can get styles where it's not glass all around, where there's like pieces of metal, almost like a cage type of a thing coming down around it, so that if someone hit it or with a stick or a baseball bat or something like that, it's not going to break the glass because of the surrounding metal pieces that go around it. So if we're going to do something like that, we'd probably want to make sure it's as vandal resistant as possible, just because, like you said, it's low level, it's easily reachable. But we thought that would be kind of a good park to try it out at, to see how it worked, especially since the surrounding campus that it's going to be serving has that style lighting.
And if you look at the lights, the only other question I had is whether we could add a 3 to where maybe 15 is, to give a little bit more light to the playground area.
Sure.
You know, it looks like it may be dark over in there.
Yeah. Yeah, as you go into that corner towards number 15, who knows what lighting is gonna be in the future as more buildings go in, but yeah, we can certainly have that added in.
Okay.
That's a good point.
And I was talking to Tracy earlier, that south fence line, if we could keep the buckthorn that's there, it makes a nice barrier right now.
No, we don't want to keep that door. We would be, it makes a beautiful barrier, right? That's why people don't remove it. Unfortunately, with the landscaping that you see along that southern fence line and around the playground, we're gonna be pulling buckthorn out of there every year. So we'd like to try and remove it and then replant it with some multi-stemmed shrubs and bushes that are similar in screening as they start to age and get a little bit bigger.
You compare the west view of the dumpster and the tires and the mattresses and stuff to the
Right.
south. The south looks great.
Yep. Thoughts or other thoughts? Tracy, I know you're on your biking adventure today. So,
Yep.
um,
Yeah, I think, the comments that Ron made are very valid. With the bollards though, like Rick said, the way they're building them now, they're pretty vandal resistant. And the other thing with that park, it's pretty open. So you'll be able to see that, there's a road on 2 sides of it. So I think the vandalism hopefully in that park will be very minimal because there's so many eyes on it. So I like the bollards, and I think keeping consistent with that whole neighborhood would be nice to try them and see how they work. They're in a lot of different parks, and I think they seem to hold their own to a certain degree.
yeah,
I like the design of the park. I think it's well done. It's laid out well. It looks very unique and fits into that area and that multi-family area very well. And I like the fact that there's the dog, places for the dogs to go, because there are a lot of people that walk their dogs around that area. So I do like the park. I think you guys did a good job on it, and I really don't have any other suggestions. I like Ron's suggestion though about more light back behind the playground equipment. I think that would be a good spot to keep a little more light there as well.
okay. Very good. Thank you, Tracy.
You're
Well,
welcome.
I want to echo what Tracy just said and Ron. My first thought too with the bollard lighting was, ooh, boy, that's awful dark. But it does fit in with the surrounding area, and it's gonna look really nice. But like Tracy said, I think too, I thought, well, there's gonna be eyes on there. And I think where we have problems with vandalism, most communities is like in the park areas where there's not a lot of, it's relatively dark and not a lot of eyes on people. I don't think that's gonna be a big issue here.
There are 4-story apartment buildings
Yeah.
on at least 2 sides of it, and that face looking right over the park. So, and who knows what's going to go immediately eventually to the west of the park. Could be another apartment building. I think Personally, I think the bollard lighting will work, just with the amount of people that will have eyes on that park.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Rex, is there a possibility to put a little more seating over by the cornhole area?
There could be. The seating we have right now is number 17, which is kind of like that cantilevered, sunshade covered area. There's a picture of it on the right-hand side column. So that's got 2 seating benches in there, but we could easily put some additional seating in there. You know what's really popular, and I'm still trying to figure out whether or not we want to try it in the parks. I just have a feeling around the community center, we've got a fair amount of exterior seating, and some of it's permanent, but we've got some very lightweight chairs and tables, and we also have some heavier duty recycled plastic chairs and lounge chairs. And people use those during the summertime. Once it really will start to warm up, every day there'll be people sitting out there. And what's real nice is that they're able to just move it around with whatever configuration they want to meet people in, you know what I mean? But we're there, like our eyes are on it. And so David and I were talked about, do we want to try anything in there like that as well? There's a lot of larger parks that have those types of chairs, and they seem to do fairly well in terms of not walking away. That would be my worry, because I've been in this business, all my life basically. So I know how things can get vandalized, and if someone sees something that they like, it could be gone, if it's not tied down or staked down. But I say this now, right? I knock on wood. Hopefully, I'm not jinxing myself. We've not lost anything at the community center in the 8 years that we've had it out there. Nothing. It's been wonderful. And we're not there in the evening. There's classes and programs going on, but there certainly has the ability to walk away per se, but it hasn't. And I'm wondering, if this might be an opportunity to try a couple of loose pieces, around there as well, and just let people move them where they want to move them. We'll see where some of our final dollar amounts come in. But again, because of the amount of people, you've got like 4 or 5 stories on each side looking down on this park. So I don't know if vandalism is going to be an issue, or I'm thinking maybe we might want to try a few loose pieces and let people come around with it a little bit.
What price range are those chairs in? Are they a couple $100 a piece, or?
The recycled plastic chairs are probably these days running around $400 a piece. The smaller lightweight metal seating chairs that we've got outside of the community center, those are probably, with the shipping, they're probably about $125 a piece, that type of thing. But they're not as sturdy, obviously, as the recycled plastic pieces are.
Yeah. Well, that's not so expensive that if you could try a few of them, and if things come to the worst and they walk away, you're not losing that much.
True. Other thoughts on the layout or things? There's some good ideas here about moving the art piece and a little bit of extra seating, some additional lighting on the back side of the playground area to kind of illuminate that darker corner. Anything else that?
What about bathrooms?
There is a pad, and this is not the final resting place of the pad. I think we've got a concrete pad on number 14.
Oh, is it on? Okay. Oh, yeah.
For a future porta potty.
Okay.
The thing is with a porta potty, that's in a park like that, you need to have it close to the road so it can be serviced, you know what I mean? Like if it's inside too much, like I don't want a heavier truck driving on the concrete all the time, a couple times a week. Because that's going to eventually move the concrete, crack the concrete, and that's gonna, you know, so it's kind of got, kind of got to be on the exterior of the park on one of the entryways. So we just picked the site right now as number 14, and we'd probably try and do our best in terms of plantings around it to screen it and pretty it up a little bit, maybe. It's the best way for me to say it.
Okay.
As good as one can do that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could get an artist to paint it and that could be
Yeah,
both
there you go.
services.
And that's another good one. Very true. Painful.
I don't know if I see such a need for a porta potty in that park. I think the majority of the people using it are going to be from those apartments adjacent to it. You know, maybe putting the slab in and having potential to put it in if there's a need. But as small as that is, I mean, we think of all of our other smaller neighborhood parks, a lot of them don't have porta potties in them either, I don't believe, do they, Rex?
There are some that do not, a fair amount actually that don't. Tracy, this is something else that we discussed. We decided to put it in for the time being and only because of it being so close to the Lambeau Field zone. And
Yeah.
and the parking and what could happen there, because if we don't have a facility there, at least in the fall, I could see there that potentially being an issue. Because we didn't have one in at Canterbury when I first started, or maybe I took it out to see what would happen, and I immediately got phone calls that all these people were picnicking in the park and they had nowhere to use the bathroom before the Packer games.
Yeah.
And so with the proximity of this, that's why we decided to at least put that in there. You're right, we don't have to start it out, or maybe we just put it in for a couple months out of the year, you know, for the heavier traffic Packer season.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I was thinking that too, because it's so close to the stadium, maybe even it is put in just for that time and see how it works and see if there's a need at other times of the year.
Well, I don't know, for me, it's one of the bathrooms, when it's needed, it's needed.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
But we do without, I guess, some of the parks without.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of parks that don't have them, although it seems like our parks are getting busier all the time, and the majority of them have them now. But yeah, we can leave it blank for now and see what the feedback is. I'm sure if people aren't happy, they're going to let us know, or give us a call and say, hey, we need this or we need that.
Or you can always put the slab in and
Yep.
then you go either way from there.
Yeah, because the slab is not a big, it's not gonna like stand out as like, oh, what's supposed to be there, because it is it's just a footprint of a porta potty, so.
Yeah.
I just find it kind of ironic that we're taking care of the dogs, but we're having discussions about the humans.
That is true.
Anything else? Feedback that anyone may have? Because if not, what our next steps are is obviously try and do what we can on our own, and then I'll be talking with administration on some of the improvements to the site, what has to be bid out versus what, again, can be done, by some of our own crews. And we're ready within a week or two, start working on this. So we'll see what the bid is. I don't know if we'll get the concrete in. Our thought is to put the playground in first, get that done, because there'll be heavier equipment going in and out. And then do the concrete work and the lighting immediately thereafter. Not opening the playground up yet until everything's done, but So this could move forward fairly quickly, but it depends on the costing.
Rex, do you have any idea how much TIF is available for it, or if there is any TIF available for it?
No, my thought is to try and get the costs down as much as possible, to use as much park development funding as we can for it.
Okay.
Luckily,
So you're gonna,
luckily, a lot of the projects that we have, Tracy, are within TIF areas, whether it be Argonne
Yep.
Park, you know, with the boardwalk and trail, that's future for that. Ashwaubenon Park, and then those are all in TIF areas. So potential is there, but there's a lot of other projects out there as well that are worthy of that type of funding, so I gotta wait and see how things develop in other areas before I can comfortably answer that question.
so to build the park then, Rex, you're not gonna go out to bid, you're gonna do as much work internally or with staff, as you can. Are there gonna be some sections of it that you're gonna actually go out to bid, or are you gonna be able to just get quotes on the work, or how are you planning to move ahead with maybe the things we can't do?
I think there's gonna have to be some stuff that goes out to bid. I mean, obviously, the concrete work, that's a lot of concrete work
Yep. Yep.
for our guys to do. Not that they couldn't do it, but they just don't have the time
Right,
to that
Right.
extent. And then obviously with the lighting with the bollards, whether we had bollards or
Yep.
whether we had overhead lighting, there's an electrical plan that would need to follow, we would need to follow. And so that needs to be done professionally. So
Yep.
again, you know, whether we piecemeal it or whether it has to be bid as a whole, that remains to be seen.
okay,
But like with the playground equipment, I mean, we can order the playground equipment on our own and our guys can install that. You know what I mean? I've
Yep.
talked with staff about the landscaping plan. You know, our staff can do the landscaping plan. We can order the
Yep.
cantilevered shelter, you know, and as long as the footings are in the ground to be able to do it, we can put the shelter together. So there's some good things that we can do that aren't, you know, we don't need to contract for,
Yep.
that I think are appropriate, but there will be some things that we'll need to have, outside help to do.
all right. So you're really gonna general it and then put out whatever you need to for bid and then do it that way?
That is my hope. Still to be determined
Okay.
as we move forward, though.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Now, it said the Ashwaubenon Trail extension or whatever was out for bids already. Is this gonna impact the dollars here against what's already out for bids?
There's only so many park development dollars to go around.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm asking is, you know,
Yeah.
whether we've got the cart in front of the horse here.
So there's probably another about $100,000 that's earmarked for the trail. We're guessing the trail will come in around 450,000 around the exterior of Ashwaubenon with some of the viewing areas. So that'll probably come in around 450. That's our guess. You know, so 100 we'll be able to pay for that, you know, out of park development, and the rest would have to have other funding sources. So there's some, you know, and maybe not everything will be able to be done this year. Maybe we'll have to spread this out a little bit time-wise, and that's what I work with administration on, you know, what funds are available, when are they available, and how can we spread that out?
And just to kind of add to Rex's point and some of the questions on the funding, so there's likely to be a combination of funding either through park development funds or tax incremental financing assistance through what would be TID 5. So TID 5 is our current TID that's available for expenditure, and those were identified as kind of public improvement projects in the project plan for tax incremental District 5. Rex had talked about the park development fees, preferably that would likely be the utilization, you know, we try to maximize the utilization of park development funds because there is a limitation to how long we can hold on to those funds before we potentially have to reimburse them if we don't use them for development type projects. So preferably we like to use those early on in the project to avoid that kind of arbitrage, if you will, of potential reimbursement back to those developers.
Thank you.
Did you just say arbitrage?
And I mean that not in the literal sense, but kind of contextual, where if you do not use the funds within, I believe it's 7 years,
Correct.
then you have to reimburse the developers or the payees of that fee. So the businesses that developed or the new homes or dwelling units that came in, we would have to effectively go back in the records and figure out who paid what when, and then reimburse them for that. So it's kind of like an arbitrage, if you will, of park development fees. So not in the literal sense, but kind of in the figurative sense.
I understood what you meant.
Yeah, sure. For the record.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Questions? We wanna, somebody wanna make a motion on this? Thoughts?
A motion's appropriate with the changes that were suggested. If someone wants to.
Or do you need a motion on this?
I think it's appropriate, just so it's not Rex building the park and no one's taking a look at it. So the record that you guys have, vetted this, and what will wind up happening is with this, that it'll go to village board next week as well. So I think a motion's appropriate.
Okay, well, I like what you've done. You've done your homework and got all interested parties involved inside here and outside.
I would make a motion to approve to proceed with the park, with the information that was provided or the comments that were provided from Park Board, and send it on to Village Board with our blessing.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, B, update on the 2024 Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan process.
I'm gonna have to put my cheaters on for this one, just with the smaller printing. Hold on a second. All right, so our last comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, called the CORP, was done in 2019. So we're 5 years later. They're supposed to be kind of rehashed and updated every 5 years, and then approved by the governing body of the municipality that creates it. So eventually, the CORP plan, and we kind of vet everything here at the park board level. When we move it on to village board, they approve it. CORP plan is required by the DNR for any DNR funding opportunities, which we have certainly taken advantage of. For instance, we were able to get a very sizable $350,000 grant for the bridge that we just built at Ashwaubenon Park, because it was in our CORP plan. So we want to do that. The CORP plan is also really used as a planning tool. It's only supposed to be 5 years out per se, but quite honestly, we've always made it 10 years out, which has worked out well, so we know what's on the horizon. And then depending upon, if different opportunities arise quicker than we thought, things kind of get switched and moved around a little bit. But the CORP plan is due to be redone this year. Typically, we do our surveys and our meetings, which I'll talk about in a second, in the summertime. And then at the beginning of fall, usually at our September meeting, staff compile all of the survey results, kind of separate them out by park, and then show them to the park board. Park board then vets them, decides we like this, we like that, we like that. And then we kind of, on our 10-year plan, kind of plug things in of where we think, You know, we don't do everything all at once in 1 year. You know, obviously, dollar amounts plays a part on how we line things up. But then we kind of like literally slot them in what year we think they might be appropriate to try and complete. So we've got a number of, well, David actually has just finished up, we just did some minor changes to the survey we've used the last couple of core plans, which we are looking to try and get online within the next couple of weeks. That online survey will be available to be filled out by residents through August, so a fairly long stretch of time that they can do that. We also have seven meetings at our parks where we're in the shelter and we have feedback forms where we're there to talk to residents and take feedback directly from them. We've got Aubinger Park, Fort Howard Park, Canterbury, Ashwaubenon, Smith, Waterford, and Sand Acres. So those are the parks that we chose this year to actually to be at, to take, you know, face-to-face conversation with our residents. Some parks will only get a few people showing up. Other parks, you know, we've had as many as 20 or 25 people showing up. We also are trying to pair them this year with our neighborhood nights special events. And Ron, you might, the movie in the park nights are now called neighborhood nights because they're not just a movie in the park. We give away hot dogs and bounce houses and play parky games at night. But they're really kind of neighborhood things where we're trying to get people to come into the park and maybe meet other families that they haven't had a chance to meet yet by participating in some of these events. So we thought by pairing our court meetings with our neighborhood nights, you're already going to have a fair amount of people there where you can actually just go out into the crowd and talk to people and solicit feedback that way. So that we think that's real important. Like I said, and so that'll last through early August. Survey's done, you know, mid to late August, and then we'll compile everything and bring it to the park board at their September meeting. It usually takes us a couple of meetings to create our 10-year plan, which is what I handed out tonight, an updated one. And Tracy, I'm sorry you don't have the updated one, probably, but you've seen it before, certainly. So basically, we'll be doing the same thing, only without all my red notes. My red notes on here just kind of talks about what the status of all these projects are and kind of where we are with all of them. I already know there's some projects that are going to be added to this. I don't think the Argonne Boardwalk is on here. You know, there's a couple of good things that I think the Ashwaubenon Park Playground is one of the next big playgrounds that needs to be done. That and Canterbury are probably the next parks up after Ashwaubenon Lake. So there's a couple things that we're going to recommend putting into our core plan. But it's really a good 10-year planning tool, you know, in addition to the requirement for the DNR grants. So I just wanted to talk to everybody about that process a little bit and invite all of you as much as you can to attend any of these particular meetings that we're having. You know, you know, you're kind of the eyes and ears for our park system out in the community. So if you get a chance to talk to people, if you attend any of our concerts or our food truck rallies, I would respectfully ask that you maybe mention as much as you can to our residents the survey that will be online or the sites that we'll be at, and encourage them to give feedback for what they would like to see in the park system. So it's not necessarily, there's something broken over here. That's good feedback for us, but the core plan is for like what amenities, what recreational activities are important to you that you don't feel the village is providing to you. You know, whether that be more trails, whether that be you know, the pickleball courts was a good thing a couple of years ago, you know, when pickleball was just starting out. You know, we got a lot of feedback, we would like some pickleball courts, and so we put them in the court plan, and we built them over at Fort Howard Park. So that's a real good example of a facility that we didn't have, or amenity that we didn't have, that was in the court plan, and because it was in the court plan, it was then built. So, we'll see what's out there with that. I know a number of you, Mark, you've probably been through this process at least 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
And Dean, I know you were heavily involved, I know in the 19 one, I remember talking with you about a lot of different things. So, does anyone have any comments or feedback on the process that we're doing this year? Do you think we need to do it differently? Or is everyone comfortable with how we have it laid out again?
It'll be interesting to see how it works out, having it in conjunction with the other activities and the neighborhood events. Because in the past, there were some meetings that were very sparsely attended. And it'll be interesting to see if this will increase, it'll increase the number of people. We'll see if it increases the number of comments and information we get.
Well, and again, that's partly going to be on us. I mean, we can sit and hope that people come to us at these events, or we can go out into the crowd, and there's plenty of people for these movie nights. Some of the parks, you know, they get, 100, 200 people at least watching these movies and having their kids play the games. And we can hand out paper copies of the surveys or just half sheets of paper saying, hey, go online to ashwaubenon.gov, click on recreation and then click on, corp survey and fill it out. Tell us what you think. So we can go out and promote it to the crowd as well as versus this just hoping that they come to us, which is what it would be on some of the other smaller parks.
These neighborhood events, do they typically start at 6 p.m. like?
Yep. So 6 p.m. is usually the hot dogs and the lemonade and.
Oh, good.
So be prepared to eat a few hot dogs this summer if you're going to be attending our events.
Yeah.
So yeah, it starts at 6, and we have the bounce house there. Every neighborhood event also has a bounce house, and then we have our whole parky staff working and playing group games with the kids until it's almost dusk. And then we kind of close down the group games, put all the food stuff away, and start the movie as soon as the screen is or the air is dark enough to watch the movie on.
Do they have cookies too?
No cookies, no. We're already giving away the hot dogs. Come on, that's it. Hot dogs and lemonade.
If you play your cards right, they'll probably give you a bun to go with the hot dog.
The neighborhood park idea, I think, is excellent, and I've attended over the years for Waterford, I don't know, last 4, 5, 6 years, I think since we started doing it in Waterford. And it's really important as a board member to attend the ones that are in your area and then just walk around. I walked around and just talked to the people, and you get the sense from them that the village is actually interested in what their opinions are about their neighborhood, that somebody personally is asking them. And I've gotten a lot of feedback in terms of, what their thoughts and ideas are. And that's helped me as a board member to get a feel for what the neighborhood's interests are. So I think it's a good idea in coupling, a meeting there and then getting out and then talking to the people. I think you get a little bit more rather than just sitting at a table and expecting them to come to you.
And some do, but yeah.
Yeah.
These are ready-made events that they're literally setting you up to be able to get a lot of good feedback. Because the people that are coming are obviously park users.
Yeah, I think the park meetings or the park events are a great idea to get input. They're already there. They're there because they like to be there. So getting their input, I think, is a big deal. The only thing I would wonder is if you'd want to have at least one more formal one, maybe at the village hall or at the community center, where you could ask people to come in just to kind of have that mix a little bit, because some people may not attend those events and maybe they would come to more of a village meeting and provide their input there as well, or instead.
Historically, which is a good idea, Tracy, we can do that like at the community center. I know historically, to try and hit that, we've also invited them to our park board meetings, in this
Yeah.
type of setting, where they can speak, and basically they've got the whole park board right there that can hear words right out of their mouth. I don't know if we've really had much action from people with that invitation.
Yeah, I mean, the village did one for the comprehensive plan, and we had very few people come. So you're right, Rex, sometimes they just don't show, and maybe if, like you said, invite them to a park committee meeting.
Yeah.
We're holding it anyway, it's not an extra meeting for everybody, but you're then encouraging them to come and provide their input there if they feel more comfortable.
Yeah, the good thing about being out at the parks and online, obviously, they can fill it out online whenever they want to.
Yeah.
But the good thing with the parks is you get to talk to someone, face to face, and actually have a conversation with them, which is good, which we like.
Yeah.
And it's in more of a relaxed, I don't want to say a social setting, but kind of, sort of, where
Yeah.
hopefully they'll maybe open up a little bit more of things that they may want to see or what they like or don't like. So,
I like Rex's idea of having a half sheet that you could hand out.
Yes.
And what I'm thinking about is the summer concert series that we've got right there at the community center. If we walked around, and again, it's a good opportunity to talk to people, but we could also pass this out and say, hey, we've got this going on this summer, please take time
Sure.
to fill it out.
ready-made crowds. And a lot of people who go to the summer concerts, they don't go to the parks, you know what I mean? But they'll go to the concert. So that's a good suggestion, Ron. We can have those available coming up.
All right, anything else? Discussion only, I think, on this? I believe.
We're good. It was more of an information and feedback, and
Yep.
I appreciate that.
Okay. All right, I believe we're on to, reports. Department reports,
Okay.
reports, Rex.
Yep, so I'm just gonna hit some of the highlights here. So right now, we're really entering our training weeks. Melody, especially for the aquatic staff. We had our first one on Monday, I believe, and she had a room full of people tonight. So we're doing a lot of the park staff, aquatic staff training this week and next week. You know, we're only a couple weeks away from summer. So we gotta try and get all the kids on board with all their training and check them off on all the things that they need to see or hear. Thursday night, and you're always welcome to stop by to this, we have our all-staff training, all the park maintenance and forestry staff. I'm doing just a kind of a summer precursor, going over a lot of things from 5 until 6:30. Then from 6:30 to 8 is our main training where everybody gets together in the grand park room, and we'll go over bloodborne pathogens, village policies, you know, different do's and don'ts on the park system that we need our staff to know. So that'll be on Thursday night. That'll probably go till about 8:30 or so on Thursday. So that's what the big thing is right now. So I think training may be mentioned in literally every division here on the benefits report. So I just thought, get that one out of the way first. Regarding aquatics, the lake is being filled as we speak. As you know, there's 3.5 billion gallons that go into that lake. We started to fill it last week with the fire hydrant and the hose. It just runs constantly until it's full, until it reaches the standpipe. So We're thinking that'll probably happen on Thursday, where we'll wind up shutting her down. And then basically we'll let the water warm up a little bit. We'll put our enzyme packs in there to knock any bacteria count down. And then in 2 weeks, we have our first event. The Green Bay Youth Triathlon will be the first ones in the lake water, and that'll be in about 2 weeks. And then we open up for daily operation on Thursday, June 6th, I believe. We are fully staffed. Mel just did lose a lifeguard the other day, but we've got a good pool of subs, so I know she will not be having a hard time filling that position. Forestry, Foley's is working on the Emerald Ash Borer project. Excuse me. They started last week, I believe, with some of the EAB takedowns, and then the village crews have been going around trying to do some stump grinding. Some of that will be contracted as well. It's kind of we do some, they do some, as we move forward. We did do quite a bit of spring tree planting, First Down for Trees, which is a program the Packers have done for a number of years now, provided the village with 31 trees. So that always helps out with our tree canopy. Again, the college kids are coming back, and so now we're able to catch up a little bit on a lot of the lawn mowing. Here's one too. We started to mail all these out, or at least email them. We have a ribbon cutting ceremony for the Ashwaubenon Trail Bridge and the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Plaza area. That will be held on Tuesday, June 18th. I would hope that if you're able to, hopefully a lot of you can make that. There will be hopefully a good fair amount of people there. We're inviting, obviously Park Board, Village Board, key people. We'll be inviting Wello, Fox Valley Community Foundation, representatives from the DNR. So we're hoping to get a nice crowd there for the official ribbon cutting. So we're excited about that. So look for that at the very least in an email invitation to everybody.
Is there
Rex,
a
what time? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, 11 a.m.
Oh, did I say the same question?
11 a.m. Bid specs, we're finishing up on the bid specifications for the Ashwaubenon River Trail extension. Grafe is working with that on that for us. So we're hoping to get that out and see where some of those where that costing comes in, if it's where we're thinking it will. Another big project is the NRDA project, Natural Resource Damage Assessment. I'm working with the DNR and Fish and Wildlife on that. That is at Ashwaubenon Park, as a reminder, as well as the Dutchman's Creek tributary. We've got about $3 million. We're thinking we're going to get about $3 million in funds to do improvements to make wildlife areas in the river, some spawning areas, as well as getting rid of some of the invasive species we have in Ashwaubenon that we've been working on for years now. And then a lot of replanting of that invasive species, with other bushes and shrubs that will take the place, so it doesn't look bare. So that is happening. They're working on the plans for that, and that's going to come to Park Board again as well as to Village Board. But we're working on that. There's going to be a public information meeting, which the Park Board is welcome to attend, and I hope, on June 4th at the Railroad Museum. We've mailed out specific invitations to everyone along Broadway, between Broadway and the river. So residents of Bay Harbor, Alden Station, all the business owners along that stretch, and individual homeowners that kind of are adjacent to Ashwaubenon, just to talk, to let them know what some of these improvements are going to be, some of the habitat improvements for the wildlife, and try and get any feedback from them.
What time?
6:30. 6:30 at the Railroad Museum, I believe. Let me double check here.
That's what it's in the minutes here.
Yes, 6:30.
Thank you.
So we've got that. Recreation, a lot of our summer program is starting up. As you know, our day camp is full. That has 60 kids in it for 10 weeks straight. So that's going over real well. Some of our classes during the day are continuing to grow. Like our line dancing class, a couple days a week at the community center is up into the 50s, almost 60 people showing up. I mean, that's huge from where we started out. And a lot of our other exercise classes are growing. Our Senior for Seniors group that offers a lot of things are growing. Our breakfast with the experts, our lunch and learns, they're all, I mean, they're getting like 30 plus people. We talked a little bit about this, I think at the last meeting when David came in with Rachel, Rachel was here, our senior citizen coordinator. And it hasn't slowed down. Those numbers are still growing. And I can say that I think we're one of the top producers of older adult activities, quite honestly, in all of Brown County, other than ADRC. ADRC is more of a service organization right now. They've stopped a lot of their actual active programming, and is going more of the the one-on-one meetings and some of the more of the information type of things. So we're picking up obviously a lot of it because our numbers are growing, which is great. And last but not least, I just FYI, so we've talked about softball in the past a little bit. So when I first started here in 2005, we had over 100 softball teams out at the sports complex. And there was softball Monday through Thursday nights. All 4 fields were going. And it was a lot of programming. It took a lot of time, but it was huge. And over the years, and really it's all across the country, not just in northeast Wisconsin or in Ashwaubenon, softball's been declining. The real competitive side to it. Whereas the last couple of years, we were only really doing leagues on Monday nights. And those were the slow pitch leagues. And we had 16 or 18 teams. We were very healthy on Monday nights. And we were renting out the other fields. Quite honestly, they were all busy still, but we're renting out all those fields to ISA, because when ISA opened up their business, they have all these private teams, tournament teams, and we're renting them the fields, and we're bringing in, certainly a nice amount of revenue to cover our expenses and the lights and so on and so forth. We used to have one of the best modified leagues in the state. All of our teams were sanctioned. We have hosted, back when I first started, we were hosting state modified tournaments almost on a yearly basis. And we actually also hosted the national modified tournament, where we had umpires from all over the country come in, teams from the East Coast, so on and so forth. And we ran a great national tournament for the modified group from ASA softball. Now it's USA softball. But then that tallied off, and they went elsewhere to other bars or so on and so forth, and they had their own thing going on. And then lo and behold, this winter, we're not sure why. We're still trying to figure out. David had some phone calls from some people. They said, hey, we want to come back to Ashwaubenon for modified. So all of a sudden, we went on Tuesday nights, because Tuesday nights was now, was one of the nights that they used to play on. We're up to 16 teams for our men's modified league again. So they all came from wherever they were, and they all are back in Ashwaubenon. So that is where David is tonight. He was going to actually help me present, because he's was doing a lot of work with this Element Way future park. But he's out at the sports complex right now, because we're still, this is only our second night of the modified league, so he's taking a look at the umpires and just dealing with some of the teams and things like that. Modified is much more competitive, a competitive frame of mind. than the recreational slow pitch leagues. Quit laughing, Kelly. And I know Tracy's probably smiling on the other end too, because I know she's dealt with modified teams in the past. They're a different they're a different animal. They're very competitive, and so they need some supervision on making sure that things go right. So that's where David is tonight, but just an FYI, we're excited to have him back, actually. It's fun to have him back. And it's good to see that sports complex being used for our own sports leagues, versus just rentals all the time. That being said, on Wednesday nights and Thursday nights, ISA is still renting all 4 fields. So we're getting still a good income stream from that. And on Sundays out at the sports complex, we have I think we're still at about 20 or 24 church league teams that play church league out there, starting from about 3 o'clock until 7 or so. So all of the Green Bay area churches get together. They have their own softball teams, and they're all playing in a league out there. And we rent the fields to them as well. So just a quick update on where we are with our softball program. I'm only telling you this because all these modified teams all of a sudden came back, and so it's kind of totally changed, our operation out there of what we can rent and what we can't rent, and now what David is spending a little bit more of his time on. Just a little, right? At least to get it off the ground. So, anybody have any questions on things that are listed here in the benefits report, or comments, or anything on any of our other park programming that you've seen either in our brochure or just through word of mouth?
Rex, one question. What is the depth from the curb to the end of what we classify as the village's responsibility for removal of the ash trees?
So that's going to vary by neighborhood. So from the back of curb to where and it's called the right of way. The village has a right of way off the curb. And so it depends on the neighborhoods. And in some of the newer neighborhoods, it's much larger than, say, in the Fort Howard Park neighborhood, where quite honestly, some of the right of way is very narrow. So it really depends on the neighborhood that you're talking about, of where, as long as if the tree's in the right of way, we're responsible for it, to take it down if it's a dying ash. But I can't just give you an answer, Dean, because it's going to vary by the neighborhood.
I just had a question of one of the trees in our area in Waterford Park. It's dead as ever, and it's an ash tree, and I know they were over there removing ash trees. And maybe they just didn't get to it, or maybe it's one that they missed.
They haven't finished in that neighborhood yet. That I do know.
Yeah.
So the way that EAB tree removal works is to get the best possible price. We kind of leave it up to them on when they want to do it. So it's not like they're going to go in, they're going to do a whole neighborhood all at once. They'll go in for a day or two if they don't have any other jobs to do, and they'll take care of it. And then they'll go on a private job, and then they'll come back in a week and do a couple more days, and then they'll go off and do a private job. The total scope of the work is we do have an end date, so they have to complete it by the end date, but they use our contract as almost like a fill-in almost for all the slower times that they may have. And that's what gives us a really good price on the removal of all those trees. So I know for a fact that they're not done in the Waterford Park neighborhood yet. And then what Tim will do when they say that they're done in a neighborhood, he has a list of every address that he's marked a tree for removal on. So he'll go and he'll check every address to make sure that tree has been taken care of. And if they've missed one, then you'll call them back and they'll come in and take care of it. And I'll be honest, no matter who it's been, there's always been a few trees that were missed because of the number of trees that we have to remove. Some people will paint the tree on their own because they want a tree removed that's not supposed to be removed. Some people will take a can of brown spray paint and cover up a tree because they don't want it removed. So there's all kinds of things that kind of go on behind the scenes that that requires Tim to go out afterwards and double check on everything and then, and kind of do a little end of the program punch list. You know, like, we need to do this, this, and this one still.
When they were removing the brush from the tree and chipping it up, one of the neighbors had their own brush out there. And of course, they cut up the brush that they needed to and left the others. And somebody came up to me and said, well, why didn't they just chip up the other stuff? And I had to explain to them about liability and contracts and stuff like that, so.
They're not, yeah.
They did a great job of doing the stump removal and reseeding and stuff, or at least of the ones that I saw in Avondale there, what, a year ago when they did that work. I was very impressed with the job that they'd done.
Yep, that was a different crew that we have. It's a different crew this year, different, excuse me, different contractor. We got a ton of compliments on that group that we did last year, or that worked for us. Very efficient. This year's contractor is also, is equally as good and well-known. It's just a different process. They don't have some of the bigger, they don't have that arm that just reaches out, self-cuts the limb, brings it down, and plunks it in front of the chipper. It's a different process. But that's Tim's role, is to make sure that the end result is just as good as the last contractor, so.
Yeah, I gotta admit, they've done an excellent job for what they've done so far in Waterford.
Good to know. Any other thoughts or comments on anything that's on the benefits report or not?
Maybe a thank you to you, Rex, for sending out the email blast about rain not being a problem on Thursday night last week. That was good. In fact, I was trying to think back whether that was in the senior thing for the week that week, as far
I
as whether it was
think-
listed.
I think Rachel might have sent out a separate senior blast, but with the rain that day, I did a couple extra emails and shout outs on both via my email contact list as well as on Facebook, just to let people know that, hey, we're still going on. Don't think that because it's been a little bit rainy that it's going to be rainy during our food truck rally. And it wasn't. We got a good 2.5 hours in.
And it was appreciated.
Good. Thanks, Ron. All right. Chris, all yours.
All right, items for next agenda. Anything, anybody got something they want to see or discuss next agenda? Or at next meeting? Otherwise, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Get a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
This conference